The moral of the story is don't lend your car to Paul Mayo because it might take a while to get it back. I had an old, I think it was a 65 Cadillac. And we were there in Colorado, and me and I think one other guy, we were headed back east over in Nebraska or Kansas somewhere. Well, we was in Colorado, and Paul Mayo and some other guys were going out to the Northwest. And there wasn't anybody going out there, and there were 4 of them, and they were just kind of stranded there, and it was the last night of the rodeo. And so there was plenty of rides going in the direction that I needed to go. So I just told Paul Mayo, I said, well, Paul, I'll just loan you my car, and y'all go on out there, and I'll catch up with you next week somewhere. So he said, okay. So I caught a ride back into Kansas or somewhere, and Paul Mayo and some other guys took off in my Cadillac and went out to the Northwest, out to Idaho and Washington, Oregon. Well, I saw Paul Mayo about a week later, and I said, Paul, good to see you. I said, that old car's still running good? And he said, Jack, I got bad news. He said, I drew up wrong back here, and so I had to leave your car out there on the West Coast. And I said, you left my car on the West Coast? And he said, well, yeah, but I left it with Russell McCall. He said he'd bring it back out here. Well, if anybody knew Russell McCall, I mean, he might have just left it sitting on the side of the road if it ran out of gas. But anyway, I kept asking around. This rocked on for about 3 weeks, and I kept asking guys, they'd been out on the West Coast. I said, has anybody seen my car out there? And they said, yeah, we saw it down in California, and then they saw it back up in Oregon, and then it might be down in Arizona. And so in the meantime, I was traveling with Scotty Platts, and we were just catching rides, And we were in Evergreen, Colorado, and we finished up there, and we were going to Sydney, Iowa. And we didn't have a ride, so Tommy Sheffield, he was the rodeo clown and bullfighter at Evergreen. Well, his next rodeo was Colby, Kansas. And Scotty and I hadn't even entered that rodeo, but I thought, well, at least it'll get us to Colby, Kansas, and that's closer to Sydney, Iowa. So Sheffield said, yeah, come on, go with me. So we left that morning after the last performance there at Evergreen, and we got to Colby, Kansas, and Scotty and I wasn't up, and it was about noon, so we told Sheffield just drop us off at a bar there in town, because we didn't want to go out there and sit in the hot sun all afternoon. Tommy had to prepare all his acts and everything, so we sat in the bar and drank beer and shot pool, and I guess it was probably about 8 o'clock that we said, well, we'll go out there and try to catch us a ride over. This old boy had given us a ride out to the arena, and we walked in there, and as we was walking up to the chutes, Scotty said, Jack, I think that's your car right there. I looked, and sure enough, it was my Cadillac sitting there. And so I walked in there behind the chutes, and I said, who's driving that blue Cadillac out there? And Murtis Dykeman, he was sitting there. He said, Jack, I'm driving that Cadillac. I said, Murtis, you do know that's my car, don't you? He said, somebody told me they thought that was your car. And I said, well, how long you been driving? He says, well, I've had it about a week. He said, I picked it up out there in Utah somewhere. And I said, really? I said, well, I hope you're going to Sydney, Iowa tonight, Murtis, because that's where that car's going. I'm getting the keys. And he said, no, Jack. He said, I'm up at Douglas, Wyoming tomorrow afternoon. He said, I got to go to Douglas, Wyoming in that car. I said, you better find you a ride, Murtis, because I haven't seen that car in a month. I said, that car is going to Sydney, Iowa. The moral of the story is, don't lend your car to Paul Mayo because it might take a while to get it back.